Okay, so thank you for your patience, first of all, and thank you to virtual stereoscopic community for the invitation. And thank you, fellow stereoscopists from all over the world, for calling in today on a Sunday. This is great. And it's my first time calling in. I know several of you from just various stereoscopy events over the years and Instagram, of course. I'm one of those guys that kind of found stereoscopy via Brian May and then Instagram. And then, of course, that opened up a whole new world for me, and been to a few conventions over the years, and kind of gone down the rabbit hole with everybody now. So really glad to be here today. So welcome. We're going to have a quick tour today of the Walt Disney World Resort in 3D. We're going to go to the most magical place on earth together today. Walt Disney World is a large place in Florida. It's about 47 square miles. So that is about 120 square kilometers in size. That would be roughly two Manhattans, or about the size of the city of San Francisco. So when Mary contacted me and said, "Hey, do you want to present 3D photos, maybe Disney or something?" I said, "Sure." And then my brain, of course, I overthink everything, and I thought, well, it's so big here. How could I possibly decide on what to present? So I kept it simple. I've selected some of my favorite details that you can find across the Walt Disney Resort, just because of the sheer size of the place. So I'll give you a little history about Disney before I start advancing through the photos, if that's okay, a little background to set things up. Walt Disney World construction began in 1967. We opened in October of 1971. Today, in its current state, you'll find 4 theme parks: Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, and Animal Kingdom. You'll also find 22 resorts where guests can stay. You'll find the ESPN Wide World of Sports there. You'll find Disney Springs, which includes dining and shopping and live entertainment. You also will find some world-class golfing if anybody golfs. I do not. I take 3D photos for fun. So you'll find that there, and you'll find really a whole range of experiences for people of all backgrounds and all ages, and that's what really makes the place, I think, magical, is there's something there for everybody. To travel around Walt Disney World, because of its size, we actually have about 500 buses on property. We have 12 monorail systems, electric trains that run on a monorail. We have about 40 boats, and we have a Skyway gondola system. I will say a few things real quick, too, about a place of that size. Really, the only reason it works 365 days, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is the people there. The guests that come every day to visit us, but also the cast members. Employees, we call ourselves cast members. There's about 80,000 of us just at the Florida site, working every day. When you all leave the parks, we're still there. We're doing all the things we can't do during the day, obviously. So the place really never goes to sleep. We welcome millions of guests annually. We do operate all year. And like I said, I picked a couple of my favorite details today to share with you all in 3D. So as Peter Pan said, here we go. So get ready. The first picture you see here on the screen, this is part of what we call the Fab Five. This is actually a photo I took looking at the train station at Main Street USA at Magic Kingdom. You can see Mickey there, Minnie, Pluto, Donald, and Daisy. They're in their 50th anniversary costumes to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Walt Disney World Resort. We kicked off our celebration in 2021, of course, 50 years after our open in 1971. Something interesting about when you first come into Magic Kingdom, you'll notice that the architecture there is Victorian, which is rather interesting. Why is the architecture Victorian? Well, Walt Disney grew up in a place called Marceline, Missouri. And of all the places he lived in his life, Marceline probably had the biggest impact on him as a child. The trains, the train whistles, the architecture, the storefronts were still open and bustling with life. And so when he created Magic Kingdom, he wanted to create a living time capsule of Victorian America as you would have found it in the late 1800s to early 1900s. So I think he achieved that here. The neat thing about Main Street, if you look here, this was taken at Christmas. You see a Christmas tree. You see folks on vacation in their shorts because they're probably in Florida in December, and they probably come from a colder environment, right? So they're having a good time. Some of the things you'll see on Main Street, you'll see a confectionery that is baking fresh goods every day. You'll see a real life barbershop where you can go get your hair cut. You'll hear a barbershop quartet singing. You'll see folks playing jazz on a live box piano. You'll see vintage trucks and cars and buses go up and down the street every once in a while. You might even see the mayor there if you stick around long enough on Main Street. So again, it's a living time capsule. It's really something to see. It really never changes as compared to the rest of the parks. So when you're there, if you were there when you were 12 and you go back when you're 80, you'll feel like you're 12 again. And that's really part of the magic there. Here we have another shot of Main Street. Again, notice the architecture. This is, of course, Ariel from The Little Mermaid. She has Sebastian the Crab conducting the music there at the front of the float. There is a parade every day on Main Street. It's really something quite nice to see. This was, again, taken at the holidays, at Christmas. We actually have a team at Walt Disney World that works all year on decorations. They work on the Halloween decorations, the Christmas decorations, any holidays we decorate. Christmas is the big one. So just as an example of how many people it takes, we put all of our Christmas decorations up at Magic Kingdom in one night. So it's pretty wild to be there the day before and it's not Christmas. You come the next morning and all of a sudden it's Christmas time, and it's really fantastic. Only possible because, of course, a lot of the hard work that people put in throughout the year. There's Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, of course. We all know Snow White. I particularly am a fan of Dopey because I'm kind of silly. I like to have a good time, and I don't do too much critical thinking, which probably gets me in trouble sometimes. So here we have Cinderella Castle. You can see a lot of guests there at different depths in the photo. They're all trying to get their picture taken in front of the castle. I will present a couple views today of the castle from not so popular points of view, because for 3D, I like to actually see the castle from the back or the side. And if you're ever visiting the park, I recommend kind of going around the castle and seeing those different views rather than just the stereotypical front shot. The castle is 183 feet tall. That's about 58 meters. It has a twin at Tokyo Disneyland. So if you go to Tokyo Disneyland, you'll see the same size Cinderella Castle. It's a bit of a fusion of Gothic Revival, and there's a whole list, actually, if you get online and look, there's a whole list of European castles, historic castles, that Cinderella Castle actually uses for inspiration all across Germany and Spain and different countries. So it's pretty fascinating how all those were used for inspiration. Now, all of our parks have at the center of the park or the front entrance an icon, we call it. So here the icon at Magic Kingdom is Cinderella Castle. Walt Disney called the icon the weenie or the wiener, the thing that was delicious to the eyes, that pulled the guest in like a magnet, that caused you to gravitate towards a certain area and drew your attention. So every park has an icon. All right, we're going to deep dive into a little 3D history here at Walt Disney World. If you look around Disney, there's a lot of 3D. This is the Carousel of Progress. This is a ride system that Walt created for the 1964 World's Fair in New York City. So believe it or not, they shipped that ride system from the 64 World's Fair to Florida. That's the same ride system you see there today. It's a rotating theater, and you are traveling through time on this ride, seeing an American typical family traveling through history. You're seeing the changes in technology, home appliances, and things like that. It's really a joy because that journey really is the same journey we all took, all of our families took all over the world, as we've traveled as a people through time with different technologies and forms of entertainment and fashion and things. So on this ride, it's rather interesting. There's two 3D, I call them Easter eggs, but there's two 3D details on this ride. If you look to the right of the photo in 3D, you'll see a young boy in his room. The father's talking. The young boy has actually picked up his father's stereo viewer, and he's looking at a card of who was called Little Egypt, and she's doing a dance, and that's one of the more obscure but famous stereo cards from the past. So he's looking at a 3D viewer on the ride, and they actually discuss the dialogue as part of the ride. So pretty neat to see that. That's actually the longest running stage show in history. That show runs every day, all day long, 365 days a year. It's pretty cool. That ride actually has a second 3D moment, if you will, for all of us 3D folks. So if you look here, you'll see the grandmother and the son in the future.
Mark,
Yes.
Mark, hold on a second. Your cursor is in the middle of the left picture. Just move it. Yes, thank you.
Is that good? I created a digital artifact in real time. Sorry about that, Pascal. So if you look at the photo here, you'll see the grandmother and the grandson. They're playing virtual reality video games together. Most people today don't realize that's stereoscopy, do they? You know, consumers, we see it and we go, wow, here we are. You know, stereoscopy is still alive and well, and it's being enjoyed here by, of course, a family at Christmas time. I put this slide in here just because, you know, Disney World changes a lot, parks change a lot. We have a lot of thrill rides, a lot of different experiences for people, new technologies, and, you know, fantastic things. But there's some classic rides I think that are fun to see in 3D. Reason I bring this up, this is the Tomorrowland Speedway. These are the kind of things when you come back to the park as you get older, like, you know, I first went in 82, you know, made several trips over the years. Now I go there for work, but there's certain places in the parks when we visit, they haven't changed, right? So when I go to Main Street, or I go to the Speedway here, or I go to the Teacups, which I'll show next, I feel like nothing's changed, right? All the noise from the outside world's gone. The good and the bad we've all been through with loss and family members and different things. We know how everyday life can be. You can come here and some things haven't changed. And that's a fantastic escape for people. It really never gets old. It's one of the best parts, I think, about the magic that we create at the resorts and the parks. So this is a ride that's been operating since 1970s. The original system for this actually opened in Disneyland in California in the 50s. It was designed by Bob Gurr, who's a Disney legend even today. Bob is now in his 90s, I believe. He also designed the monorails. And Bob is active on Instagram if you ever want to look him up. He's a great guy, and he's still out there doing some pretty cool things. These are the teacups. This is the Mad Hatter's Tea Party. Again, a classic attraction, right? Kind of what we all probably think of if we think of ourselves being a kid, smelling the popcorn, hearing the sounds, you know, seeing the sights at a theme park. This is probably one of the things that stereotypically, no pun intended, probably comes to your mind. Another shot of the castle here. I wanted to put in here for you all, just to show a different angle of the castle. We always see the castle head on, don't we, from the front? And I think this is kind of a cool shot from a side angle that kind of shows the trees, the landscaping, the detail that we go through at work to bring some life and some depth to the parks. It's more than just an imaginary place. It's the imagination become real. So here's the back side of the castle, probably my favorite shot of the castle, my favorite side or view of the castle at Magic Kingdom. Look at the windows up top with me. That's actually a restaurant. That's Cinderella's Royal Table. If you make a reservation there, you get to eat with your family, and Cinderella comes out to see you. So it's pretty cool. I get a little nervous around royalty, personally. I don't know what to say. I don't know all the etiquette. So, you know, I was born and raised in West Virginia. So I'll just be honest. I'm a little lost when royalty comes around, whether I'm on the clock or I'm on a day off, I get a little nervous. So, neat little shot there to show you kind of some of the hidden details of the castle and the things that happen there. Now, this is for all of us. This is not my best 3D shot. I apologize, but I could not leave this out. This is back to Main Street, Victorian America. It looks like a nondescript building, but if you look a little closer, I'll take you a little closer with this next slide. At the window at the top, all of the windows on Main Street have Victorian era gold foil names, businesses and things like you would have found on any window back in the day. That's a tribute to Iwerks and Iwerks, or Ub Iwerks and his son Don Iwerks. If you look at the top in the blue oval, it's a little hard to see, but that's a stereo viewer from the Victorian era. And Don Iwerks and Ub Iwerks were pioneers of 3D photography, both still shots and cinematic photography. They helped Walt create also the single view 3D depth camera. Mary and I were actually talking about that the other day. They also were just big fans of 3D photography. So that's forever enshrined on Main Street. If you're ever in the park and you look up to the right, you'll see that window, and you'll know that stereoscopy has played a part in Disney history. So kind of a neat little detail there. Here we have a monorail. We have 12 monorails on property. So let's move into the future now. We're going to leave Victorian times together. Let's travel into the future that never was, right? Futurism. Here we have one of our 12 monorails. This is at the Ticket Transportation Center, south of Magic Kingdom. You'll see a pilot up there watching the last of the guests get ready to board, and then he will, of course, take his place in the pilot's seat, and this monorail will fly probably to Epcot at this point. This is a second shot of a monorail. This one's arriving at Magic Kingdom's Ticket Transportation Center. All the monorails have their own color and name. Another pretty cool fact, monorails carry about 50 million passengers, guests a year. So these monorails get a lot of use. We use these every day, and that's probably one of my favorite ways to travel around the parks. We're going to leave Magic Kingdom. Again, we're in the future now. Let's go to Epcot, the second park that opened in 1982. This is Spaceship Earth. Probably my favorite icon and probably my favorite park of all the parks we have all over the world is Epcot here in Florida. This particular structure is the world's largest geodesic sphere. It was created by Buckminster Fuller, hence why most people call geodesic spheres buckyballs. I call this affectionately the golf ball, because from a distance it looks like a giant golf ball. But when you get right up on it, again, this is the use of what Walt called a weenie or an icon to draw your attention as you arrive, to set the stage for the world that you're now entering. This is a futuristic environment here that you're entering now. And the southern half of Epcot is actually dedicated to the future, to technology, to community, to nature. And then the northern half of Epcot is actually dedicated to a permanent World's Fair, which celebrates cultures and countries from all over the world with cuisine and cast members from those countries. It's rather interesting. This structure is coated in 11,324 aluminum tiles. So each isosceles triangle you see there is actually made of an aluminum outer piece of bread. Think of a sandwich. And then the filling in the sandwich, in the middle of your two pieces of bread that are aluminum, you have a foam core that provides thermal and sound insulation. So the whole entire ball here is made up of about 11,300 tiles. It's about 180 feet or about 55 meters tall. And it has a volume of 67,000, I think, cubic meters. So that would be about 2 million cubic feet. There's a ride in this ball. You actually go inside and ride through this ball. It's a 15-minute slow, dark ride. And it covers the history and development of human communication throughout history. It's pretty fascinating to see. This is Mission Space. This is another ride at Epcot that I really like. I don't ride anymore because I get motion sick. But just to let you know, this was co-developed with NASA. If you're ever at Epcot, ride the green route first. It's the more tame route. The orange route is the full-blown simulator, which rotates with an actual NASA simulator. So you will feel like an astronaut on that ride. It uses a little bit of 3D trickery and also the rotation of the simulator. But my favorite part about this area is something we added last year, and you all will recognize here in a moment. There's a restaurant we've opened there called Space 220. This is in reference to space being roughly 220 miles above the Earth's surface. So when you go eat at the restaurant, you are shot up to simulator, but you feel like you're shot up to space on an elevator 224 miles above Earth. When you get out, you're in a space station. And you feel like you're eating dinner in a space station. It's actually slowly rotating through space, and you look out the windows and you see space, you see astronauts and all sorts of wild things. We added something here last year, though, that might be familiar to all of us in the stereo community. This is not the best stereo because I'm taking a photo of the ground, so I apologize, but I had to throw this in there. This is a tribute we did last year to the Perseverance rover mission from NASA. So that's actually a core sample tube and a small conical angle of repose, or drilling pile is what you call it, where of course it went out and took core samples of the surface of Mars and various rocks and things, right? So we got with NASA last year. My team and I were part of just the permitting phase for this project, for the utility clearances and the groundbreaking at the start of the project. Then the Imagineers came through with NASA, and they actually used a wheel and a full scale, I guess you could say, core drill system to create these holes. I know there's no water on Mars, so when you look at that one, you might be like, Mark, what's going on here, man? So we sealed this entire display on the ground in a polymer to keep it from, of course, falling apart, or to keep it from wearing down. So, of course, we had to fill the core hole with polymer resin. So apologies for the small inaccuracy there. This is China. As I mentioned a minute ago, as we head towards the last part of our presentation, Epcot is pretty interesting. We're looking at details today, and the details in the World Showcase area are fantastic. If you're ever here visiting, I recommend World Showcase. Some of the countries we have there are China, Japan, Germany, Italy, France, the UK. It's fantastic that each part of this park is a different country. The architecture, the design, the building of these areas were all created by people from those countries, which makes it extra special, makes it accurate, but also it's a good, respectful, fun representation of those different countries. It's a fun place to take 3D photos because you're traveling the world in a day, and you get to see some neat things. All of the cast members in these areas too are from those countries, which is pretty fun. If you're there shopping, in China or Japan or Germany, someone from Germany or someone from Norway or the US, they're helping you there. They're telling you about their food, their culture, their way of dress. It's a fantastic, fantastic way to see the world. To the Year of the Dragon, I guess, right? So here's a dragon outside of the Torii Gate near Japan at Epcot. And if you look in the distance, you can see that ball we started at a few minutes ago, Spaceship Earth. It's way off in the distance. So this kind of gives you a relative reference to how far you've traveled just in this park. This is one of my favorite details at Epcot. This is a samurai doing kata out in the forest in Japan. This is not a place a lot of people go when they're in the park, but I will tell you this. You could go to a Disney park in Florida every day of the year for a year and probably see something new every day. It's just impossible to notice everything right away. I've been going there since the 80s, started working there in 99, 2000. And believe it or not, I did not notice this samurai out in the woods until about 2 years ago. So now he's one of my favorite spots. If I want a quiet place away from all the noise, I go up the hill, hike past the koi pond, and I hang out with this guy for a little bit. So I wanted to show you this just to show how important architectural theming, but also landscape design is to us at Walt Disney World. No detail is left, to spare here. We have lots of horticulture happening here, lots of landscape design, but also the harmony of landscape design and architectural design, creating a way for you to escape the real world for a little bit. So pretty immersive, pretty fun place to be as a cast member or as a guest. Lots to see. Just have a few more slides for you real quick. These are not the Tres Caballeros. I did Dos Caballeros here, so apologies. I didn't put all three friends in the picture here. But this is, of course, Donald and Zé Carioca from Brazil. They are at Epcot for the Flower and Garden Festival, and these are actual topiaries that we create at work and take care of during the festival. So pretty neat. Lady and the Tramp, any Lady and the Tramp fans that like the classics, that's for you. Not a bad shot of the topiary there. I could never do that. If they asked me to make a topiary at work, it would just look like probably a neglected shrub that wasn't fertilized properly and I would say it would be abstract art or something like that, right? This is a shot of Animal Kingdom's icon, the Tree of Life. If you go inside of this tree, you will actually see a 3D film. And at Walt Disney World, we have several 3D shows or attractions. At Magic Kingdom, of course, we covered the Carousel of Progress. We also have a film, what we call 4D at Disney World. We have a theater at Magic Kingdom that presents Mickey's PhilharMagic, where the theater actually uses smells and water, and the theater actually shakes and moves while you're watching the film in 3D, so it's fully interactive. We also have the Pixar Short Film Festival at Epcot in 3D. We have Muppet Vision 3D at Hollywood Studios. We have Star Tours, a 3D attraction at Hollywood Studios. We have Toy Story Mania at Hollywood Studios, which uses stereoscopic 3D for the ride system. And this, of course, is It's Tough to Be a Bug, is the name of this show at Animal Kingdom. It's a wonderful 3D presentation. And lastly, the last 3D presentation I could think of was Avatar Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. It's actually a ride where you ride and you fly with the Navi of Avatar in 3D. So it's pretty fun. I want to take this opportunity too, as we wind this down, to let you all know, if you're ever visiting Florida and you're going to Walt Disney World, please look me up. I'm more than happy to be your VIP 3D tour guide, because I know where all the 3D stuff is at the park. So I've got a list, I've got an order you should go in and how to get there the quickest to make the best of your time. So don't hesitate to reach out to me. Details matter. This is actually a surveyor's mark. Yes, I walk around and take pictures of sidewalks. Pretty sad. This is a permanent survey marker at Hollywood Studios in 3D. Toy Story, of course, our buddy Woody here. Reference for size, this is larger than life. So when you go to Toy Story Land, you are the size of a green army figure, a little plastic army figure. So everything else around you is in reference to that scale. So just as an idea. Couple shots here I wanted to throw in just for the Star Wars fans. These are First Order troopers at Galaxy's Edge. This is actually on a ride called Rise of the Resistance, where you were actually captured as a guest and interrogated by First Order officers and threatened and asked to give up the location of a secret rebel base. If you succeed and you don't become intimidated by these very intimidating troopers here, you can make it out of the ride. So another shot of the First Order troopers. It's pretty impressive to walk in here after you're, I guess I could say, captured. It's something to see these First Order troopers in real life. It's pretty neat. Anybody ever wanted to go for a ride on the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars? That's the actual common deck of the Millennium Falcon. We have a full-scale Millennium Falcon at Walt Disney World that you can fly. I highly recommend it. This is the area you wait in before you board and go into the cockpit to fly the Millennium Falcon. Here's a shot of the outside of the Millennium Falcon. Of course, you can see a Jedi there. That's actually a guest. I don't know that person, but they were just standing there with their lightsaber and enjoying the moment. And I was able to snap a picture of them, which I thought was fantastic to see somebody there. They've traveled from really far away, and they've got their Jedi robes on, and all of a sudden they're in a different universe, right? And really makes my day when I see something like that. Last 2 or 3 slides here. We've been around the parks. We're tired. We have to go back to our resorts now and hit the shower, get some dinner. Our feet hurt because we've walked all day, right? So this is the Grand Floridian, a Victorian-themed resort here in Florida at Walt Disney World, patterned after the Hotel del Coronado, I believe, in California. Really nice resort, beautiful place. The monorail goes through here, and the boats will take you to and from this resort too. So if you're ever visiting and you're not a guest, there is a way to see the resorts, which is pretty cool if you like architecture and landscape design. This is another shot of the Grand Floridian from the outside, just a day at work. I was actually reporting to a project meeting that day, and I turned around and saw the hotel, and I'm always doing that at work. I'm always turning around taking pictures in the middle of the day. It's probably annoys some people, but that's okay. You guys understand me, right? You know what it's like taking pictures every day, all day, everywhere you go. So it's part of the fun. This is Saratoga Springs. Again, we've been to the parks all day. Our feet hurt. We're tired. This one's themed after Saratoga, New York. Michael Eisner, this resort was his idea. One of my favorite places on property because you'll notice there's no palm trees there. It's all hardwoods. So it's actually, even the landscape design is correct to the idea that you are in New York, upstate New York, you're at a resort at the turn of the century. Last picture, folks. We rested at the resort and now we all have to go home. We have to leave Walt Disney World. So I've left you with this balloon here. This is the Aerophile, which is French. It's operated by a French pilot, and it's your transportation back home today from the presentation. So I want to thank you all for your time today and the opportunity. And the VSC, what you guys are doing is fantastic. I mean, utilizing technology to bring everybody together. And there's Mary with the balloon in a different format from the Sigfie book. Thank you, Mary. And Alessio and I, of course, were page mates there. There he is. But thank you all again for having me today. I love 3D, and that was my honor and pleasure to be asked to speak and take you on a 3D tour. So that wraps me up.